my curiosity is that, when you're with a therapy with a client, in a room or with a group of teenagers, how do you begin to and they've been through a lot of traumas, and now they're suddenly having this intervention, real key intervention that can really help them. How do you encourage them how do you begin to invite them to build that ventral vagus state, which is a very powerful state to be?
That's a good question. I don't think it's very helpful to just start teaching and they're not ready for it, because you have to be ready for it. You have to be open to new information. You know what I mean? And what I do typically is I don't just launch into this. I wait for the people I'm working with to ask questions like, why am I like this? Or why do I feel this way? You know what I mean? Why did I?
Love that.
Yeah, it's just, just really simple. It's like, why did I react the way I reacted during that thing? And I'm like, I get excited. I'm like, I got answers for you. You know what I mean? And I'll go into really simple concepts and explanations about the polyvagal ladder and how we go through these things sequentially. And it's not a choice. It's blah, blah. So all that kind of stuff I'll launch into in really simple terms. Once somebody is ready for it, once somebody's asking, I put the podcast out, and the people that come to it are people looking for new information. They're people that are like, what's this polyvagal thing? And they'll type it in and they'll find my podcast, but they're ready for it. They're open to new ideas. They're open to new explanations, and they stumble upon the podcast and it clicks, but they're open to it. So when it comes to working with kids, that's one avenue. Is I just wait for that open invitation to share what I think is helpful. The other avenue is, like, today I was at high school, and there was a girl that came in, went to the school counselor, and she was just crying, 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 crying. Just had to leave class because she was so dysregulated. And she said she was at a point of, I think she called it a mental breakdown. It looked like a panic attack to me, just from what I saw. Uh, but we can call it a mental breakdown. It's fine too. And so the school counselor asked me to help out, and I can't just start teaching her about these things, right? But what I can do is be in my own state of ventral vagal, safe and social, not energy, but activation, which means just being present, being in my body, coming from empathy, coming from compassion, which is the ability to feel someone else's feelings, empathy. But compassion is the capacity to help, to stay in my own safety state and provide assistance in some way. What I did was so there's all these factors that come into play, and we can't teach somebody when they're in that really dysregulated state. Their brain is not capable of
No.
of learning and taking information and thinking critically. Like, it's just not. And so when I came to that room they were in, I noticed it's a room I already knew about, but the room had a lot of echo. And so for me, being in that room with a lot of echo, it's not dangerous, but it's not ideal either. You know what I mean? Like, it's not literally dangerous. But for my nervous system in that space, when I try and talk and listen to people, it's a challenge. Like, it's very difficult because there's a lot of echo.
Yeah.
And I also noticed in that room, there was windows open and there was somebody else outside the window who could have easily heard what we were talking about. And I'm not about to go into confidential information with someone outside the window, right? Plus they were doing like gardening or something like that. So I'm like, yeah, the environment in and of itself is not going to be conducive to this person self-regulating or to accept my co-regulation. So the environment in and of itself, I can change this. And so I said, hey, do you mind we'll go to my office? Are you okay with that?
Wow.
So giving them some freedom to have control and choice. I didn't teach anything. It's just, let's manipulate the environment to help produce cues of safety for you. I didn't teach her that, but that's what I started to do. And so we walked over to my office, which was really close. I asked, hey, is it okay if I close the door? Again, I want them to have control. I want them to have a sense of control and ownership over what's happening. I don't want to do these things to the person. I want to do them with the person. So I'm not teaching, but I'm doing these things. And so we sat down, and I have never met this person before, but their leg was shaken. They were crying. Therapists in general want to launch into, well, what happened and what led up to this and delving into the past. I think we can easily go into these typical places of therapy, I guess. But in a crisis moment, you just want to get some some regulation going. And so what I asked her was, I just sort of gauged. I'm like, I think she can handle this. So I asked her, like, what are you feeling inside? And people, we don't want to feel our stuff. We want to avoid it. But that's kind of what leads to the problem of these breakdowns or panic attacks, is that we avoid and we stuff things down and we deny and we minimize, we rationalize. And it doesn't help. It just builds the problem, builds and builds until we snap. And so I said, how are you doing inside? I see your leg is shaking. How else do you feel? And she was having trouble with words, and I expected that. So I'm like, how's your breathing? How's your chest? Because I know when we're more sympathetically driven, that there's a lot going on up here. When that flight fight energy is happening, there's a lot that can happen in the chest. And so I was kind of helping her, giving her some words, because she was struggling. And I was like, how's your chest feel? And she goes, it's something, but I don't know the words. I'm like, do you feel, is it like a tightness? Is it a pressure? Are you having trouble breathing? And she goes, it feels tight, like this. And so we were able to identify there's some feeling. I'm like, just sit with that for a moment. So it was, and I normalized for her. I said, like, we want to not feel the stuff, but it's already here. Let's just feel it for just a little bit, just a moment. Can you handle that? And she's like, yeah, I can do that. Okay, cool. And so then I know that I don't want to leave someone like that. We don't want to just stick with the pain, right? We want to activate the safety pathways. I said, if you could go anywhere, I knew she had some flight energy there. I said, if you could go anywhere, where would you go? If you could go somewhere safe, where would you go? I use the word safe. If you go somewhere safe, where would you go? And she knew right away. She goes, I go to a lake, and this person would be there, and that person would be there. And we talked about who those people were. Both safe people, both people she felt safety around. She could activate her safety pathways with these people. I said, with one of the people, person one, when's the last time? Or no, I said, how'd you feel around them? Because I wanted her to have the feelings of safety. We have to have those feelings of safety to balance out those painful feelings, right? The panic feelings, or the flight fight stuff, or the
Yeah.
shutdown stuff. And so I said, well, how do you feel around that person? And she was able to say, I felt, actually, first off, she smiled, like, right away, just thinking about that person, that safety. She smiled and she said they were funny. When I'm around them, I feel supported. And so I'm like, just notice that for a second. And we didn't go, it wasn't too heavy, not too deep. Just, hey, like, I said, I saw you smile right away. And she noticed that. And so these little interventions just bring her more to the present moment, more into her body, and not into whatever led up to that. And the stuff that led up to it's important, but we're kind of in a mini crisis. We just have to get to this moment, and then we can deal with other stuff, right? And so I did that a couple times where I went from, let's activate some safety, and then we'll tap into, how's your chest doing right now? And as time went on, she's like, oh, it's loosening. I can feel it relaxing, as we talked about person one and person two, and how she felt around them, and how when person two gives her a hug, she feels love. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so I just let yourself feel that. And then we checked in, how's your chest doing? And so it just kind of eased up pretty quick. I mean, it's like over a span of like 15 minutes, like she rapidly, just from noticing these things, having me as a safe co-regulator, giving her space, giving her freedom of choice, offering my smile, although I have my mask on, offering my eye crinkles when I smile, having prosody in my voice. So I offered these things to her. Her nervous system, not in her conscious mind, but her brainstem through her senses picked up on these things, and it reminded her body, you're safe. You know what I mean? And there was one point where I was like, you're safe right now, right? Like, you're literally, there's no danger here. You're okay. You're literally safe. We know where the exit is if you have to leave. Like, you know where to go. We can contact your mom. That's fine. So, like, there was just these cues of, like, you're literally safe. Plus, I'm giving you safety. Plus, you can feel safety in your body. And I'm going to prompt you to kind of go there through my open-ended questions. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So that helped soften that energy, that defensive kind of energy.
that's incredible. I just loved where you said to her, how does your heart feel right now? Yeah, I was listening to somebody yesterday, and when the heart rate is so fast, of course, it explains why you might be feeling panic or
Yeah.
down. So yeah, it's very, very interesting the way you, because rather than trying to go to some stories, like you said, in the past, blah blah blah, which is just a place for that, but you
Yeah.
can't say, okay, how does your heart feel right now? Where does it feel tightened? Does it feel, and
Yeah.
that bring the locus of control back to the body, and it's very interesting. I really I really enjoy
It
that.
brings somebody, into their body.
Yeah.
And like, we have to exist there.
We have to
We
assist
like
that.
we just, I mean, you don't have to, I guess you can do whatever you want, but life is more manageable when you exist in your body. And the more you can do that, that signifies that there's more ventral vagal activation, which is that safety state. So the more you can do that, the more you can be in your body, that shows that those pathways are active. Now,
Yeah.
whether or not they're active and how much, and can I measure it, and should I teach you about it? To me, that is completely secondary. It's like, do you feel more in your body or not? Can you notice that tension easing or not? And she was able to, more and more and more. That's what it's about, is like, the biology is fun, but when it comes down to it, in the moment, do you feel safe or not? And can we get there? And little by little, and just by noticing what we feel inside.
Yes.
I do not recommend people just jump into the pain. Now, in that moment, I was giving her enough co-regulation to where I just made the judgment. I think if we just notice the feeling, not the emotion. Like, I could have asked her about the emotion of panic or the emotion of breakdown, you know? We could have gone to the emotional piece of it. But really, there's something underneath. There's the emotion, but underneath the emotion, there's the biology. There's something happening that you can notice and feel, which is what was happening in her chest. Like, you could feel that. I typically do not recommend people just jump into the painful stuff.
Yeah.
Usually
And
it's overwhelming.
it's very interesting, all these um cues you're giving her, like, you notice the environment wasn't safe. Do you want to come to the office? Can I close the
Yeah.
door? It's giving her some sense of control
Yeah.
over environments. And of course, following your lead, but also leading herself. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's so, yeah.
I'm giving her control in a sense, but it's more like I'm reminding her
Yes.
she has it within her. I don't have the power to give control. You know what I mean? And I'm picking at words here.
Yeah.
But I think the concept is important of me recognizing she can make her own choices. Now it's up to me on my end to provide a safety platform for her to be able to say, like, the door closes, fine, or yeah, we can go to the office, that's fine too. And I also asked, do you want the school counselor to be with us, so that who's a female, do you want her to come with us? Because like, I got to be sensitive to that. Like, my first time meeting with a teenager who in this instance was a girl, and I'm taking her to a different room, that could be a very scary thing. So I had to make sure she's okay with that, and that she knows there's someone here who can come with us. Like, that's okay. And that she knows there's an exit here, that she's literally safe. And then I'm also providing these biological cues of safety through my voice and through my eyes and whatnot. So I'm providing this like platform, the safety platform for her biology to ease into feeling safer and safer and safer. So I think the sense of control and choice is definitely a big part of that.